Hello, welcome back. I'm still Luke. This is still Alex Roebuck. We're still at IQ Games Huddersfield, commentating on the Northern League Legacy event here, and we're going into round 3. We've picked a feature match for you today, and Alex, let's talk about it a little bit. Who's playing who?
So we've got a Delver concoction from John Ingham.
Notorious brewmeister John Ingham, John Wisbit Ingham.
He does like to include a few odd choices in his deck, and today we've stretched the mix a bit with Dark Confident, Tarmogoyf and Lightning Bolt all appearing in the same deck.
Exciting stuff. And on the other side of the table, we've got Alex Carnell, who's playing Burn.
Yeah, Burn.
We have a few opinions on Burn.
Tried and tested, 3 damage for 1 mana seems like an effective way to play Magic. There's usually some version of that in most formats. I guess one of the interesting things about it in Legacy is it's just attacking on an angle that most of the decks in the room aren't interested in competing with you against. A lot of the cards are very, very redundant. They all do very similar things to each other, which is very different to a lot of the ways that other Legacy decks are built. The high power level of the card selection effects in Legacy, Brainstorm, Ponder, Senseous Divining Top, and so on, means that you can really spread out what your effects are. You'll have a resilient threat over here and an interesting answer over there, a counter spell you can find when you need to. And you rely on these card selection pieces to get.
Whereas Burn, not so fussed for that.
Whereas Burn, it's just, give me 3 lands and 4 of my spells at random, and that's a hand.
We're going to go straight down there to coverage now, where the players are shuffling up for their 7s. Who's favoured in this matchup? Obviously, one of the big ways for Burn to lose is if the counter spells of a Delver deck match up well against it.
Yeah, I think on the whole, Burn is definitely favoured. Price of progress to close out the game is absolutely huge in this match because the Delver decks, they can't afford to run basic lands. They're running entirely off non-basics. You even catch them in positions where they'll leave a wasteland up so that if the opponent casts Price of Progress, they can wasteland themselves just to reduce the amount of damage that they're taking.
We've seen 2-1 Barbarian Ring, one of the few wastelandable lands. Carnell, seeing as too enthusiastically attacking with his Force of Will Goblin Guide there.
Wisbit politely showing him where that card can go.
Going to 19, which is relevant, I suppose.
Yeah, John's land count's low enough that he's very unlikely to get any real value out of the trigger from Goblin Guide, which means that all that card represents is an incredibly aggressive block that he's going to struggle to deal with later. His removal suite is not very deep, and you don't really want to be having to waste those cards on your opponent's 1-drop. A really important card for John to remove is Eidolon of the Great Level, Great Revel. If that hits the table, Wisbit needs to kill it as fast as he possibly can.
Yeah. Of course, Wisbit playing Delver, where almost all of the cards trigger the Eidolon and the Great Revel spells. And it looks like Carnell's gets a 1-land hand, which against Delver is not very good. He hasn't resolved the spell yet, Mark.
It's not as bad as you might think. I mean, the majority of the spells cost 1. Now, obviously, missing the second land drop means that he has to chain those spells out an awful lot more slowly. But in the late game, all that represents is being a spell up. It means he's drawn 1 more spell rather than the land.
That's true. He's drawn the land now. I guess that's appropriate.
We saw a chain lightning on the Deathrite Shaman getting countered there. That's very relevant. The Delver deck from John Ingham runs a lot of very small creatures. And ultimately his game plan is to generate as much value as he can out of those creatures.
So you see a second Force Will here from Wisbit.
And there's one of the key cards from Carnell's side of the table. That's Eidolon the Great Revel. As we were saying, almost every spell in John's deck will trigger that.
Oh, Tiger! He's got to play Tiger. Oh,
yeah.
I've just realised he's playing Tiger. So the 4-color Delver deck that's playing Daze and Delver Secret has to play Tiger.
Yeah, well, if it's sat next to an Underground Sea, that's all 4 of his colours.
That is all 4 of his colours, and Underground Sea is the best land. Everyone knows that. Truth. So, Dark Confident, probably not a haymaker in this matchup, although definitely strongish. And when it's revealing Tigers all day long, I guess you're not complaining.
Yeah, it's very risky. I can imagine him boarding that card out, perhaps when it comes to moving into game 2. Turning over a Force of Will quite possibly just ends the game. Carnell's kicking out enough damage that you can't afford to be dealing extra points to yourself unnecessarily.
So let's see if Carnell's trend of not resolving spells continues here, as he taps out for possibly a Monastery Swift Spitter. Good old Taylor Swifty, I think. Taylor Swift Spitter?
That looks like Brainstorm and Flusterstorm in John's hand, I think.
So Alex is not attacking into the 1-2 Deathrite Shaman. Now this is lovely. This is lovely.
exiled Revel to gain 2 life there, which is going to help John stay alive if the game gets to the point where Carnell's burn spells look like they might seal the deal.
When Carnell's burn spells are gaining John 2 life, you know something's gone wrong.
It is worth noting that represents a slight disadvantage in terms of -2 on Tarmogoyf stats.
That's very true.
With it being
well, -1
an
there's a
enchantment.
Goblin Guide, but yeah,
Oh, the
enchantment is
Goblin
definitely
Guide's still
relevant.
there, but yeah.
So Wizbit here, brainstorming end step to make Bob deal no damage.
Yeah.
Tech. Sometimes you brainstorm to Fleet Elves, other times you brainstorm to not die to Bob.
And here we get to Wasteland that Barbarian Ring away.
Wastlanding against Burn is very good. There's one Barbarian Burn in this entire list.
It's
There's only
very rare
one
that you
non-basic
actually
one.
get to do it.
Exactly. I mean, he was never on Fire Blast mana anyway, but at least this definitely keeps him off. And having double Deathrite and double Green Source, you got me feeling good for Wizbit here.
Yeah, extra lands in the graveyard helps generate extra mana through the Deathrite Shamans. It helps make Tarmogoyf that little bit larger.
Riftball getting spell pierced. Carnell has cast 4 spells, resolve 3. This is how Delver plays. And while it sounds horrendous, a lot of people feeling pretty sad, probably on the coverage. It's an important part of Legacy, and if you did allow every spell to resolve, then we'd probably always win. So no one wants that. Carnell fetching up a non-matching basic mountain. Interestingly, playing spells post-combat after attacking with his prowess creature. Oh, it's another Eidolon. Oh,
Thermo Alchemist.
I did not notice that in his
That's
list.
a card from the most recent set, I believe.
Holy moly.
Very interesting little toy. I picked up a foil one for my cube straight away.
Holy moly.
It's a 0/3 for 2 that taps to deal 1 damage. It untaps every time you cast, I believe it's a red spell, or it might be any instant or sorcery.
Holy McMolyton.
That's a way for him to get damage through when he's not able to attack.
Yeah. I can't believe this. He's playing 2 in his list. He's playing 2. It dodges Bolt in the mirror. It's probably mirror breaking.
I think it is a 0/3, not a 0/4.
Or is it a 0/3?
Yeah.
Okay, my bad. Doesn't dodge Bolt. Doesn't dodge Bolt. Well, we'll see how this goes for Carnell. Obviously, playing some spicy burn here.
Let's see if we can get that one up on the screen for you. It's certainly the first time I've seen one cast in Legacy.
Definitely the first I've seen one casting Legacy. And Carnell also has main deck Searing Blood. So Wizbit here looks like he's using a Deathrite Shaman. The triple Deathrite draw is pretty good. It's the only way to gain life in his deck. Afterboarding, he has this Scavenging Ooze, which is probably relevant as well, but right now it seems very strong for you to be...
And that's a Flusterstorm stopping that, resolving as
so-
well. It's an interesting decision that John's facing there, because obviously the Searing Blood's going to attack his life total as well as just kill the creature. But you reach a point where perhaps it's worth letting a card resolve.
Did you just Stifle Fog a Thermo Alchemist trigger? Activate ability. I
That
think he
looks
did.
like Stifle preventing Thermo Alchemist from tapping. That might seem like a relatively weak use of the card, but I think coming out of Burn, there are very few places to point that.
Yeah, that's fair.
effect.
That's fair.
I think
And the fetch lands aren't that strong against the.
No,
Stifle.
I think the most value you can possibly get out of that is causing a Rift Bolt to stay in exile rather than being
That
cast.
seems powerful.
Yeah.
That seems powerful. But yeah, Thermo Alchemist there, seeing playing Legacy, the 0/3 defender that just pings its opponent once or twice a turn. Wizbit here loading up on threats, trying to kill the burn player before the burn player kills him. Or his own Bob kills him, which is also likely in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, despite the success John's had with stopping Carnell's spells resolving, life totals are still tied at this point. We can definitely see a Fire Blast in Carnell's hand there, which puts John on functionally 7. That's a price of progress.
Putting him on functionally 4/3. So it's possible that we should be. Crikey. Thermo Alchemist doing work here.
And that'll be one with an untap from Thermo Alchemist
Yeah.
to deal exactly lethal, yeah.
He needs to be announcing his Thermo Alchemist triggers when he casts. Oh, he's got to respond to Activate Deathrite Shaman. Put himself to 2 and then chump with a Tarmogoyf. Okay. We're still in this.
So we're gaining 2 life with a Deathrite Shaman. That's the Goblin Guy gone into exile, I believe.
How big is your Goyf? That eternal question. Plaguing eternal magic. So obviously, This Thermocracy doesn't work, and I respect Carnell for including it in this list, actually. But Wisbit seems to have
It's potentially
lethal attack.
about to die to his own Dark Confident here, which would be quite sad given
How hard he's worked.
how hard he's worked to stay alive so far.
He can be gaining.
I don't think there's any creatures left to exile.
Right. Delver trigger first. And bomb trigger. It's a land. It'll be interesting to see if he plays his land, because Price of Progress is unlikely to be cast at this point. So I think you want black
Price
source
kills
to
him
activate.
regardless.
Yeah, I think you want to be activating Delver with the black mana, and that's important.
If anything, it's a little bit awkward that he did counter all the removal on his death rights. You know, it'd be nice to be able to gain a little bit more life back. So Thermal Alchemist being untapped at the moment puts John functionally on 1, assuming it's going to be alive in Carnell's untapped step. So we're attacking the whole team there. That's Goyf on 3 power.
Swiftspear doing some
damage.
blocking.
That allows John to get a creature into the graveyard, though, which could be extremely relevant.
Oh no. I don't think he plays Bayou, so.
That's a second Tarmogoyf.
With lethal next turn on Carnell, so we'll see how this goes. Carnell draws a land.
I think that's Land Swiftspear.
Which is not good.
gonna do
It's
it.
not a sorcery,
No.
not good enough. It's a chumper, it's a trump blocker. Okay, so
He
can
puts himself back up to 4.
Yeah. Was this use Delver very well here? Sorry, use Defra very well here. Well, I guess I'm Delver in that case. Untap. Let's see what the Bob brings. Please no force. Please no force. Please no force. Please no force. Oh, okay.
He's been incredibly lucky with those.
He really has.
Dark Confident triggers. This
To be fair, yeah. To be fair, he had his opponent dead to double Defra activation if he'd flipped Delver last turn.
Yeah.
I don't know, because just Trump Tarmogoyf.
I think at this stage it's quite likely that John's going to put the game away because we've got the mana available to activate all 3 death rights.
Nearly. Only 1 black source, so we can gain life, but not 6 him.
Well, what we can do is we can. How many lands do we have in the graveyard at the moment? I think there's a wasteland in the graveyard.
Yeah. So we can crack fetch.
You can crack a fetch, find a black source.
So we can.
That's 1.
Yeah.
And then you tap one of the death rights to exile one of the lands to make a black. You tap the other one to drain him again. So if we untap, you can activate Death Right Shaman again in response to the Dark Confident trigger. And Carnell has to block both Tarmogoyfs.
Yeah.
So really, Carnell's looking for something like a lightning bolt off the top of the deck, and nothing else is going to do the job.
But he doesn't. So Wizbit has chosen to attack with one of the Death Ray Shamans, leaving Carnell able to not block the Tarmogoyf, putting no creatures in the graveyard. Oh no, merely 1 Monastery Sphere in the graveyard. Leaving Carnell's top deck of basically nothing. This has been a really, really interesting matchup.
The attack with the Death Right there was certainly interesting.
It might be that Wizbit wants to gain twice, gain life twice, rather than. Oh, he's on 4th Death Ray Shaman. It's just the rubbins. Wizbit goes to 3. In your upkeep, activate Death Ray Shaman. Yeah, that seems like the correct play. Go to 5.
So there's nothing in Carnell's deck that's going to deal 4 damage for a single mana.
Well, there is because of Thermal Alchemist. Bolt would deal a 4th damage essentially.
Yeah, sure. The reason I'm saying 4 though is
an
that John's
additional.
life
Yeah,
total is
okay,
currently
sure.
5, so we're looking
Wait,
for
no,
4
because you
plus
ping.
1.
Because Thermal Alchemist untaps when you bolt. So if you drawn bolt there and John hadn't got an extra creature to eat, he would have gone
because it
ping with Thermal
untaps,
Alchemist,
yeah,
deal 3, put you to 4, untap Thermal Alchemist, deal 3, deal 1 more. What does Bob reveal? We're still on the please no force plan though.
It doesn't get that far. He can drain in response to
Go
the
to
trigger.
6. Does he get? Is there a 4th?
No, Carnell's dead in response to the trigger.
Oh yeah. He's dead. Okay, yeah. Well, sorry for discussing misplays, but that's gone very well for Wizbit there. Neutering Carnell's early growth by disrupting his mana base and basically stopping him resolving any spells, any relevant spells early on. Seemed really, really strong.
So that's the first time I've seen anyone cast the Thermo Alchemist, and that seemed to
In Legacy.
showcase. That seemed to showcase very well exactly what it's there for. You know,
Yeah.
it allowed him to keep applying pressure,
It beat Tarmogoyf very
keep threatening to end the game in Carnell's favour, despite the fact that John was very far ahead on board, that Carnell couldn't really attack through anymore. Dealing at least one a turn, also powering up all of his other burn spells by one each.
Yeah.
The multiple death threat draw from John did him an awful lot of favours. I think he gained, must have been at least 6 life, possibly 8, as well as being able to drain Carnell out, speed up the win a little bit faster, and crucially, finish the game in his own upkeep in response to the Dark Confident trigger and not risk dying at that stage.
We can talk about sideboardings, but just before we talk about sideboardings, shout out to my dad who's watching. Hi, Dad. We'll talk about sideboarding.
I think my cat is as well.
Thalia the cat.
So, sideboards. Let's have a look at John first. We've got
On screen.
another Dark Confident. I don't
Probably not coming
think that's coming in.
I would imagine the Dark Confidence is coming out, and we should probably look at what creature threats.
True Name's
we
a very
can bring
interesting one because it's essentially impossible for Carnell to block or to remove.
It also fonts a lot. True Name
Yep,
is.
it's very good at blocking as well. Omizawa's GT represents a way of both removing Carnell's threats and also gaining life back, which is very important. Thoughtseize is an interesting shout against Burn. A lot of people are very reluctant.
One.
Well, a lot of people are very reluctant to cast it because they read those words, you lose 2 life, and think, well, I'm against a deck that wants to deal damage quickly, that must be bad. But if you look through Carnell's list, every card in it is going to do more than 2 damage. So when you Thoughtseize them, you're generally speaking netting at least 1 life. You're actually up rather than down.
But you're reducing yourself a turn. So if you Thoughtseize them on turn 1, and then they end up being Thoughtseized, but still not, if they're hellbent by the end of the game,
Yeah.
then you've done fine. But if they're not hellbent by the end of the game, they've been continuing to cast spells.
You're
anyway.
each a card down, but it's more likely that they're going to be stuck in top deck mode, desperately needing that last burn spell, than you are stuck in top deck mode, desperately needing your last threat.
That's fair.
Just because of the way their spells work. And on top of that, a lot of their spells actually deal even more than 3 damage.
Yeah, you're right,
Thoughtseize on turn 1 and take an Eidolon away that they were going to play on turn 2. Especially in a game like this where,
That also
where
really
John's on
pushes
the draw.
Tarmogoyf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sorcery enchantment creature right off the bat.
Yeah.
If Carnell's turn 2 play is going to be Eidolon,
And you Thoughtseize
and
it,
you
it's really
Thoughtseize it
good.
on turn 1, that buys you so much time, it gives you so much life back.
We saw, yeah.
We've got a Scavenger Ooze that's almost definitely coming in. There's a Flusterstorm. I guess that's a maybe. Carnell does play an awful lot of spells. There's plenty of targets for it. Pyroblast, that'll be a no. And Dread of Night, that's irrelevant as well. Over on Carnell's side, there's a Pithy Needle. I definitely expect to see that.
The Death Ray Shamans are instrumental in the last
yeah.
game. Equally Volcanic Fallout. Probably coming in as well.
Yeah. Sulfuric Vortex, that's another way.
Stop Wisbit gaining life.
Stop Wisbit getting
Alongside
life
Skullcrack.
or winning a long game. Skullcrack as well.
I think the problem is that all Carnell spells are really good. I would consider taking out some number of threats as Wisbit's removal suite seems strong. But how do you feel about that in the long run? Also, how important is the fact that we're advocating lots of high mana cost spells when Wisbit is a Daze deck? We can ponder these decisions for as long as we want, but players have to finish sideboarding in 3 minutes. They have finished, and they're starting up with Draw the 7.
The tempo of this match is absolutely crucial, so having spells dazed, I mean, we saw what happened in the first few turns of that game. Carnell just couldn't advance his board at all. I would be wary of cutting too many threats, despite the quality of John's answers, just because Lightning Bolt deals 3 damage once, and that's it, it's done, it's over. If something like a Goblin Guide sticks, even for a little while, it doesn't just deal 2, it deals 4, 6, or even 8, if you can keep using your other spells to clear the path. If you try and play the game just with direct damage to the face and not committing permanents to the table, there's far more likely that you're going to run out of steam and be unable to finish the job.
So while players mulligan, we should also say that Burn mulligans horrendously. So it's good that Carnell's kept 7 both games, because realistically, losing out on 1 additional opportunity to get 3 damage in is very bad.
Yeah, it's got no card selection tools. You can't have a hand that's sort of shaky, but the Brainstorm makes it a keep. That just doesn't exist in Burn. You need a hand that is a reasonable mix of lands and spells.
Meanwhile, it's possible that Wisbit's greedy mana base is forcing him to mulligan more regularly than he maybe should, as this is him going to 5 now.
It's something for those of you who've met him or played against him in events, you'll know he's a fan of being as greedy as he can with his
Yeah,
mana
John
bases.
Wisbit, cut a land.
You know,
Ingham.
if you show him a deck list and ask for advice, the first thing he will say is cut a land. And
Yeah.
I don't know how he makes it work.
Have you tried this quirky spell? Yeah. We'll see. He's playing 2 non-blue sources in the form of Tiger and Badlands, partially because of as a nod towards how sketchy the curve of Lightning Bolt into Dark Confidant into Brook Decay into Tarmogoyf into Delver Secrets.
Playing a broader range of dual lands, like essentially as many different card titles as you can in your mana base, allows you to unlock the maximum number of colours with the fewest number of permanents.
Yeah.
So, for example, a Tiger next to Underground Sea is all 4 colours. You can cast a Brook Decay off that, but you can also cast Brainstorm and Lightning Bolt. Or a Badlands next to a Tropical Island would be the other one. Again, it gives you the same thing. You've got all 4 of your colours. You can cast an Abrupt Decay, which is a slightly taxing spell from a requirements point of view. The flip side of that is you are incredibly vulnerable to Wasteland.
Yeah.
Your opponent very often will be able to waste you off not just 1, but 2 colours in a single
Thankfully,
stroke.
not a problem here. It looks like Wisbit's drawn 3 lands, Tuning Nemesis, 2 Daisies in his opening turns. It looks like we're going to see a hard cast Daze here if Carnell casts a 2-mana spell. I think that seems really reasonable. Oh, sorry, it's Daze Force? He's definitely true name Daze Force.
It's definitely a
Wisbit
day, it's
pass.
definitely a force true name.
So we're going to see how this goes. Carnell fetch to avoid drawing more lands and just lava spiking Wisbit's face. Powerful strategy. I mean, it's difficult to interact with at this stage when Carnell's cleverly playing around Daze and in that case Spell Pierce, a card that he might think Wisbit has.
In Wisbit's shoes, I'd now be looking at the Force of Will in my hand and wondering if I was right to leave it in. The issue with Force of Will in this matchup is
It's a 2-for-1.
it's card disadvantage in a match where every card matters. And one of the great strengths of Force of Will against a lot of the other decks in the format is that almost every deck has at least one key spell that it really wants to resolve against you. Miracles really wants to stick Counterbalance. Eldrazi really needs to stick its first creature. It doesn't really matter which one it is. It just,
Thought
Zero, Reality Smasher, either of those are great.
The big ones.
There'll be some decks that are really threat-like, if you can keep Rogue Delver off landing its first Delver or Tarmogoyf, that costs them several turns.
So we
Burn,
actually, if
Burn doesn't have that. All Burn's spells are the same. So if Burn has 2 random spells and you have Force plus blue card and you force one of the spells, the other one does the same job anyway.
which is, I guess, a shame.
Yeah.
You see, Carnell's flooded here, which is lucky for Wisbit because he hasn't drawn any threats yet.
There's the
Thankfully,
true name.
this is the true name.
So that's coming off the Tropical Wasteland taps for mana.
So we leave
Whatever
him
land
valuable.
we're fetching with Scalding Tarn,
Vault.
there's a little bit of a shortcut gone on there. The interesting thing about that is we've left Volks coming out, so that turns on all of the colours. It also, not that Carnell's actually playing Wasteland, I don't think.
No, he's not.
No, he's not. But it does waste-proof against losing blue.
It does.
The odd thing about that line is,
He's tapped Wasteland, which might be more utility than buy.
yeah, I in a deck like this with a large number of dual lands, no basics. If I have if I have Wasteland, I'm always really tempted to leave it up just in case my opponent casts.
Interestingly, hilariously, Wisbit can go days, whole priority days, on his opponent's price of progress to pick up 2 islands. Even
That's
if it
true.
resolves,
Yeah, but
As it happens,
his
he's
other
untapped.
option, had he tapped differently,
Yeah, would be
is
to
to do
Wasteland's
that
own land.
and to Wasteland the Bayou, putting himself down to 0 non-basics, and then untapping and replaying a land.
so I've seen Carnell's hand, I know he has Fire Blast. He's getting to the stage where he can hard cast the Fire Blast. And I think
mean,
his
you
land
just don't
hand
want
isn't-
to.
You just don't want to. His hand is, well, you know, this isn't great for Carnell. He's drawn lots of lands. And this is one of the failures of Burton. We saw it happen to Mud, actually, a couple of games ago. But Carnell now has the win. It's trying to process a period where Carnell can resolve his spells through John's handful of counter magic.
Yeah, so if you look at the board, you certainly would get the impression that John's miles ahead. He's got an unanswerable creature on the table. He's got a Scavenger Goose there. But you just got to check the life totals, and you realise that actually John's position is nowhere near as safe as it looks.
But 7's so high, Alex. But it's not. It's just not against Burn. Alex has 7 points. Carnell has 7 points of burner, isn't it?
John needs at least 2 more turns to be able to get there. That's a Swift Spear with 2 burn spells in hand to pump it. Which,
Oh, we got
there we go.
Decay.
There's the decay.
So Carnell fighting against counter spells and rule spells. But I think he's going to go for it. It's possible it's right to hold these, but I guess Wisbit's tapped out. Oh, no, he's not. This is a difficult one. Are we forcing a lightning bolt here? We did just discuss how a lot of his spells do the same thing, and so do we save this Force of Will for a Price of Progress, for a Fire Blast, for a Pyrokinesis, or are we just snapping it off now? It's a difficult one.
There's also the marginal added bonus that the more spells he plays this turn, the more effective his Flusterstorm is. He doesn't know what... Oh, there's a Daze.
Is this just to Price of Progress, or is it to actually pick up a...
I think this is pushing the Flusterstorm count. I think he's trying to make sure that Carnell can't play for Flusterstorm, because his total spell count this turn is Swift Spear, Bolt, Daze, Abrupt Decay. So he's got to pay 5 to get that spell to resolve. That's not going anywhere.
Yeah, okay. So this bolt isn't resolving, and now he still has Force Pitch Daze. So that was
no,
a
he
nice
played
little...
the Daze, so his last cards are...
I think it's...
Oh, he does have
He
another
has
Daze. So
additional
he still
days,
has
he had double
Force
days
Blue
early
card.
on.
Yeah.
And obviously the Vulcan is... Sorry, the Trop in his hand.
Yeah, so with Carnell on so many lands, the likelihood of getting to use Flusterstorm effectively is dropping rapidly.
Yeah, so
that
actually-
sequence of play was designed to get maximum value out of Flusterstorm.
How do you feel
and
about
it
this
did the
land
job.
drop? I'm not sure about this land drop. This puts him dead to Price Progress, whereas before he would go to 1. I think that land drop was loose, even with Wasteland in play.
I think Wisbit has to assume he's dead to price regardless.
Do you think?
Yes.
I'm not so sure.
Yeah. I mean,
If he has Force, he's dead to double price,
he's approaching the point where he can hardcast Force of Will as well.
That's true.
Although the Daze is, again, because of the amount of lands that Carnell has, really quite redundant.
I think I'd Force this if I was Wisbit.
I'd certainly be tempted. I mean, there's no way in hell that last card can do enough damage to kill him.
Yeah,
and
he's dead on.
leaving a blocker up.
Yeah, is really relevant.
Yeah.
But now Wisbit has to draw a rule spell, or just some way to win the game. Yeah, okay, play
has
fifth
a
land.
land, so now he can- yeah.
I like
See,
having
now
the
it's
option
at
to
5
hardcast
mana.
Force, but I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm still not 100% certain about it. So Carnell has to block. Scavenging is here. Interestingly, does he have the option to block and Fire Blast? Is that even good? Probably not. Sorry, probably not. I think this is
achieves very little.
Yeah. Just,
Yeah, I guess we're operating from a position where we do know what Carnell's last card is, but in Wisbit's shoes, I would have forced the Mentor there, because that means he's representing a lethal attack this turn.
sure.
Whereas now he's only putting Carnell to 1. Maybe he was hoping to draw a bolt of his own. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I think forcing the Swift Spear was the right play, but also maybe just worst case scenario, leaving the Force when it definitely kills you is just maybe what you want to be doing.
Wisbit wasting no time in
Eating it immediately, yeah.
exiling it and getting 1 life. So I think that should put him back up to 9. I think we've got a little bit of a delay there.
Sorry, we've been told by our moderator we should point out that John Ingham Wisbit is what we're
If
referring
you're
to
a
as.
regular in the UK Legacy scene, you're bound to have met him at a few events. Black borders, plenty of foils.
You recognise him. Big guy, spiky hair. Thumbs up for the Goblin Guide. Again here, Carnell dead to this trio nemesis, so he's got to win this turn. I don't think Goblin Guide is going to get it there, especially when Wisbit has Force in hand.
There's just no need to counter that. I mean,
No, I think Carnell's.
even with Goblin Guide there to block, John's representing a lethal attack. If Goblin Guide attacks, it can't kill him. The only way that he can win
he's
is
dead,
by
yeah.
resolving the other spell as well, and with that being his last card, John knows that Force of Will is going to stop that. Yeah, so sadly for Carnell, he did draw incredibly badly in that game. He still got very close to putting the game away, though. We got to see some unusual-looking plays from John in order to maximise some of the value out of his spells. The Flusterstorm line, where we dazed a spell that we knew that we could pay for just to increase storm count. That was certainly very interesting. We're just
Excellent play by John Ingham.
getting to watch the players do sideboard here. So we've got the
Fire
Flusterstorm, which we
Blast in
talked
from
about.
Carnell.
The Abrupt Decay came in because, realistically, we're anticipating these sorts of permanents from Carnell, the Sulphuric Vortex, and also he's got some high-quality threats in the main deck already.
Yeah.
True Name Nemesis is unanswerable.
Jitte, of course, gains life. That seems really
Jitte,
relevant.
the life gain on that is absolutely invaluable. The Strix we kind of missed. It's definitely a match where every card matters, so having a card that can replace itself in the way that
Well,
does.
I'm happy swapping Bob out for Strix in this matchup.
Yeah, those are both sort of filling the same slot and in a way doing the same job as well. They're representing card advantage. So instead of tapping 2 for Bob, you tap 2 for a Strix. You draw your card straight away. You only get 1, but it doesn't cost you any life, and it doesn't matter if the Strix dies immediately. You also get the opportunity to trade with an attacker of any size.
Yeah, that's very true. Trading with attackers as well.
So one of the do-I-don't I moments is if you're being attacked by a 1/2 Monastery Mentor. If you block with Bob and then they immediately bolt your face, the Mentor gets 1 bigger, and that means that Bob is now chumping rather than trading.
Sure.
Strix, because of its death touch, is always going to trade.
Well, we're back here in IQ Games Huddersfield covering Northerly Leagues. That was round 3. We saw Burn versus Falkland Devil. We're just going to finish up our conversation about sideboarding. So yeah, Baleful Strix seems strong there.
So what we've got here is a really traditional Burn deck with the slight fruity inclusion of Thermo Alchemist.
Thermo Alchemist.
Did an awful lot of work in game 1, although unfortunately didn't quite get there.
Yeah.
And then the Delver deck, which is just John essentially showcasing some of the most powerful cards in the format, along with the mana base that just about supports them. Everything from Dark Confidence to Tarmogoyf to Flusterstorm. We've also got the key cantrips, the Brainstorm and the Ponders, that really set the deck apart from what you get to play with in Modern, along with good old Deathrite Shaman, who's banned.
Yeah. So this and especially with the mana base is really relevant. Like Dazing a Shockland is not fun. So Wizbit with the ludicrous mana base in order to fit in all these most powerful spells.
Yeah, incredibly fragile. It's high risk, high reward is the bottom line. When this deck works, it works incredibly well. You get access to incredibly powerful effects.
His deck seems very, very powerful there.
From all across the colour pie. Really, you just get to play the best of Magic. The downside is there are decks in the format with Wasteland and Stifle or even Blood Moon, and you really do fall prey to those if you run into them.
Yeah, I can imagine. And Burn, on the other hand, plays on the fact that its role in the meta is playing on the fact that people aren't ready to actually deal with this sort of access. And there have been a lot of Burn spells printed across the recent past. We're looking at Exquisite Firecraft in Alex Carnell's list here. There have been a lot of good cards, and to some extent they can't print better Burn spells at the moment because of how good Legacy Burn is getting. Like, it's only going to get more efficient, and it's playing on an access that people aren't ready for. There are decks that we saw in previous rounds that just will never beat Burn.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so the thing with Burn spells is roughly you're looking to trade 1 card for 3 damage, or do better.
Yeah.
And every set has its own Burn spell. It has an Incinerate or an Incendiary Flow or a Lightning Strike or something like that. You can keep tweaking the exact list, but essentially Burn is Burn. It is nice to see slight evolutions on cards, or we'll make it slightly more expensive for a little extra quirk. Another recent-ish card in this list is the Exquisite Firecraft that you just mentioned. That, I believe, is there largely to tackle miracles.
Yeah.
The spell mastery mode on that makes it uncounterable and the damage unpreventable, which gives you just a way of breaking through that counterbalance lock.
Yeah.
The fact that so many of your spells cost 1 and 2 means miracles can shut you out a lot of the time.
Yeah. I mean, I really like its role in the meta. I think it's really interesting. It's good to see Alex doing well with it. I mean, he's 2-1 now, which is relevant in the top tiers of the.
I'm not sure what I think
for
to the fetch lands. They're not we're not enabling a splash of any kind there, so I assume they must be there purely for thinning.
For thinning, which is okay. We're we're just going to go to adverts for a short period, I think, in the near future. We'll be back really, really shortly with more on this discussion. We're just having a couple of technical difficulties. We'll see you really, really soon.